Well, welcome everybody. For those of you that were here last night, welcome back. And for those of you who were not here last night, welcome. We are at the second of our public events for the Plastic Awareness Global Initiative Ocean Sciences meeting. This meeting is set up of a set of international scientists who are here trying to learn about the status, trends, and maybe some potential solutions having to do with plastics in the ocean. We aren't going to get as far into the solutions as we'd hoped for because, or as we would hope for as individuals, we're getting as far as we had planned for within this meeting. Plastics in the ocean, I think we can all agree, are something that are created by people and is a problem that we probably need to find a solution for. We need to do every solution by finding collaborations and looking in creative ways to link individuals together. The working group here is a group of experts that span physical, biological, chemical sciences. The audience here represents a number of different disciplines. And at its root, the Plastic Awareness Global Initiative was founded by the inspiration on the steering committee of Dr. Igor Kornichek, a music professor, an alumnus of UC San Diego, the music department, and an avid ocean lover. Also an experimental musician who had addressed and noticed a problem in the world and wanted to find a way to solve it. Igor has been an inspiration for us in terms of finding ways to not just do science the way we typically do science, but to try to think of a way to use our creativity in identifying the problem, trying to solve a problem, and to engage a broader community in this. I really am pleased. It's been an honor to work with Igor. It's been an honor and very fun to travel with Igor and Susan and to see some of these problems firsthand and to really start fighting through, thinking through, designing ways that we can leverage the strength of us as a community and our different strengths. To introduce the panel tonight, Dr. Igor Kornichek.
Hello, everybody. Hello, I'm really glad to see you all here today. So yes, I am a founding member of the Wilsdorf-Mettler Future Foundation, which is co-sponsoring this event. And I am delighted to once again introduce this now second public encounter of our 4-day symposium that we're calling PAGI, or Plastics Awareness Global Initiative, discussing what to do with this amazing, indestructible material that we humans have created. I hope this is the beginning of a journey with PAGI, not a one-off event, wherein this becomes a springboard for future discussions and actions to combat the challenges that are presented by the discarding of plastic. Last night you heard a lot of the sort of issues that plastic poses for the health, not just of humans, but humans, of course, and the planet in general. I personally became interested in trying to imagine solutions when I came across an American-made plastic grocery bag masquerading as a large jellyfish in what should be pristine waters a couple of thousand miles on the Asian side of the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is the biggest of the 5 gyres of trash in our oceans. What does it mean for the planet if this keeps building up and never disappears? What, if anything, can be done about the already existing plastic soup that coexists with an increasingly diminishing number of ocean species? What will fix our human psyche so that nations across the globe will, for example, accept the need to better manage or even ban the convenience of something so unnecessary as a plastic shopping bag? The problem is at once both global and personal. That the nature of plastic is so light, chemically neutral, and benign is precisely the problem. It is not nutritious, and its half-life is exceedingly long. The stuff can be swallowed by whatever species that match its size, be it flip-flops by sharks, bottle tops by birds. You've seen these pictures. particles of cigarette filters by anemones, and synthetic molecules by microbes, causing starvation and strangulation all up and down the food chain. And we're on top of that food chain. Simply put, the planet is choking on plastic. Despite all human efforts so far to recycle, a study that came out in the National Geographic in the summer of 2017 has indicated that 91% of all plastic has not been recycled and has simply been thrown away. And all the plastic that was ever produced since the first man-made polymer, synthetic polymer in the 1940s, and the first appearance of plastic particles in the ocean in the 70s, is still around. Of this 91%, much of which, if not most, found its way into the ocean, it is estimated that 90% of that is smaller than a quarter inch. That trash has been broken down over time and has become largely uncountable. Here at Scripps, we have a veritable library of warehoused vials of ocean water samples from as far back as the 70s, and Dr. Jennifer Brandon, who is with us today and will moderate our panel discussion, has mobilized a crew of interns and students to actually count and attempt to identify the smallest microscopic particles of plastic found in these vials. From the tireless work of her and her team, it is possible to estimate that these amounts, but we know the scope of the plastic swamp only indirectly. If the planet can be saved from the menace of synthetic plastic, let alone save our species and most vertebrates from plastic, then the problem of plastic breaks down, as I see it, into three categories of solutions to be sought, each greater and more difficult to accomplish than the previous. 1, cleaning up existing undesirable plastic. 2, elimination and prevention of further non-wanted plastic spilling into the environment. 3, and ultimately, functionally, replacing the use of plastic. Of course, as I think is clear, if mankind cannot solve this, then the problem facing the planet may be resolved of its own by the elimination of the species. But I'm still on Team Human, and I would like to think that solutions may yet be found to resolve these three issues. Plastics must be removed from the ocean as thoroughly as possible. This is the cleanup of the ocean represented by optimistic efforts and expectations of the Dutch engineer Boyenslat's ingenious nature-powered collector concept pursued by the Ocean Cleanup NGO that first led me to be interested in our ability to come up with creative solutions to this problem. As big as this problem is, it would seem to be just the first and easiest issue to address. It just takes dedicated people and machines to go get it. But we know the challenge is great. We hear more and more news stories on an almost weekly basis. Second, the amount of plastic that is continuing to accumulate in the ocean may amount to 8 million metric tons just for this year, 2018. And since the appearance of plastic in the seas, the problem continues to grow exponentially. What do we do with all the plastic? The plastic wrapper, your vegetables that may have come in, that hasn't yet gotten to the ocean. If we bury it, it likely eventually finds its way back to the ocean, as much of the plastic does, from landfills, down rivers, and out to the sea. Can we make huge plastic cannonballs and shoot them into the sun? Don't laugh. I thought this a possibility. I'm told nylon fishing line appears to make excellent rebar for coral reefs. Maybe we should be building plastic cities as our own coral reefs of humankind. Now that was a joke. Recycling, reusing, and in this case reclaiming, as laudable as that sounds, seems only to delay the inevitable. But this is the big push at the moment. Now it takes everybody and more machines. The third problem springs from the second. It would be great if a major cleanup cleared up the obvious and a comprehensive reuse program slowed down the process of plastic lost to the environment by 50%. That's a big number. But soon we would be back to current conditions. Well, okay, maybe plastic can be reused and maybe re-reused and then re-reused. How many times can that work? Think of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. At what point is that no longer viable? Depending on its classification, plastic can generally be used 2 to 3 times before it gets downcycled or made into a more useless or lesser value plastic. After 5 to 7 times, the plastic microfibers are simply too short for anything. Now, it will take an evolution of being human. It takes political, social, and personal will to stop using man-made plastics. Or a new super science to invent a process whereby plastic is completely eliminated after use without getting into or harming our life-sustaining ecosystems. The solution may force us to no longer make man-made plastic, which is made, of course, from products like crude oil. This third problem will be fought over by practically every industry, not just the oil industry, and every nation, starving and rich, for the next 100 years, if we survive that long on the plastic not dealt with. What industry is not touched by the lifestyle-enhancing feel of plastic? Of course, we have other calamities that ironically may mitigate the plastic problem in the manner hinted at before, when I say that some sort of partial or full extinction event will rid the planet of man-made problems. It appears that humans are not yet evolved, that individuals are capable of thinking and planning in such long time frames. Cannonballs shot into the sun beginning to sound reasonable? Unfortunately, it is the nature of how we Homo sapiens deal with problems. Out of sight, out of mind. That is how the oceans got filled up with trash in the first place. Not being able to say this about ourselves, or hear it, or see it, is part of the third problem. Long-term thinking is what is required. As a human community, however, we have a really good chance. If we are lucky, we can buy ourselves some time by solving the first 2 problems, if we work collectively. This third problem is a wake-up call. We need to shake off the illusion of infinite use, most certainly, and maybe also long-term use of synthetic plastic. Furthermore, we have to find a way to pay for the consequences of our behavior that can be factored into the true value of things that does not cost us our lives. Why does a ballpoint pen, with its various types of incorporated plastic, cost so little when it costs so much downstream? We must create a new economics to measure this true value. Let's no longer worry about how we frame it, whether stating the obvious so baldly may paralyze some of us, push us into denial. We're past that. Fear motivates people, and this is a fearful sermon, but so does hope. I look to a reaction to this Congress that will generate a lot of ideas and paths to real action and hope. I'm not pessimistic. There are some really good ideas out there. For example, is it possible to account from here on in the source, the country, and even the precise factory of every piece of plastic by using the nature of plastic itself? Using maybe a kind of forensic identification, require the encoding of all plastic products with tiny parts per billion of unique alternative molecules as tracers. That will help track down violators of international treaties. I believe working together we can change this threat to all of us as quickly as we created it. The doorbell is ringing. It is time to act. I'm very excited that my foundation is supporting this effort, that we see it as a synergy of the best and brightest from differing perspectives to begin working together. There are, just within the past couple of years, so many NGOs out there dedicated to the ocean. It is time to coordinate our efforts to begin and benefit from the synergy of ecologists, chemists, economists, legal and political scientists, biologists, sociologists, diplomats. This is just the beginning. I think on complex issues like this, like plastic waste, and in places and spaces like the wide oceans, where no country manages and corporate entities look at hungrily, philanthropists, NGOs, and foundations are perfect to lead the way. Let's get together and make it so. Now, I've raised a number of questions and ideas that can and should be debated. I know many of you also have questions that accompany arm in arm your concerns. I have been inquisitively gathering as much information as I can and seeing this as a multidimensional, multidisciplinary puzzle that needs to be assembled in order to address it. And so I have endeavored, on behalf of the Wilsdorf-Mettler Future Foundation, to help create the broadest space possible for real experts to share and contextualize their expertise and findings. We look now to them who are here with us these 4 days to shed light forward to the next stage. And with that, I would like to introduce tonight's moderator, Jennifer Brennan.
Is that on? Yes? No? Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Hello. Thank you for that, Igor. Welcome everyone to the second night of our PAGI panels. Tonight's going to be a little different than last night. There's not going to be plenary speakers. We're going to have 7 experts come up here that are all working actively in this space to solve the plastics problem or to solve a little piece of the plastics problem. So I'm going to have each one of them come up here individually and introduce themselves, their organization, and how their organization is individually tackling a specific part of the plastics problem. So I'll have them each come up here. We have given them 5 minutes to introduce themselves because there's so many of them. And then when that's done, they'll all stand up here and we'll have a moderated discussion about the state of solutions as they are now. So bear with me because I've got a few PowerPoints open when I close this slide. Okay, first up, this is what it found. So this is the one we're going with. All right. Truly drawing straws, but not plastic straws. All right. So first up, we have Sherry Lippiett, who has been wonderful, both is going to be on the panel and then has been wonderful actually in the closed room working group all day, bearing with my terrible drawings on the whiteboard. So she works for the NOAA Office of Marine Debris.
All right, thanks, Jenny. For the record, I think your drawings are beautiful.
Thank you. Too kind.
I'm Sherry Lippiett. I'm the California Regional Coordinator for the NOAA Marine Debris Program. And our program was created in 2006 by the Marine Debris Act, and we were designated as the federal lead for addressing this issue. Our mission is to investigate and prevent the adverse impacts of marine debris. So as the California Regional Coordinator, I have the pleasure of working with various stakeholders and partners in the region to identify and address local debris issues. And so it's important to point out that we are a non-regulatory part of NOAA and have no enforcement authority. So the work that we do is primarily focused on prevention, research, and removal. So I'll just very briefly touch on each of those. So first and foremost, prevention. So we have a grant program that focuses on behavior change. So trying to get beyond just raising awareness and education and actually targeting specific debris generating behaviors. So some of our grantees work with K through 12 organizations, and one example up in the Salinas River Valley is the One Cool Earth program that worked last year with 17 different elementary schools and had the students do trash audits of all the trash generated at the school and then develop specific waste reduction, recycling, and composting programs. We also have projects that work with industry. So one example is the Clean Water Fund's Rethink Disposable project, which works up in the Bay Area and works with food businesses that have both dine-in and carry-out facilities, and kind of identifies all of the single-use disposable plastics or other items that are being used, makes recommendations for switching over to durable items, and then tracks the cost savings over time. And so they've developed really good case studies for businesses showing that it doesn't just make good sense from a sustainability standpoint, but it also makes good economic sense. One final example, a project that we're excited to have just gotten off the ground with Surfrider up in San Francisco, supporting their Hold On To Your Butt campaign, which is focused on reducing cigarette butt litter. So the second tactic is research to help us better understand the impacts of this issue and develop more effective strategies to address it. So we have a research portfolio that includes a shoreline monitoring citizen science program, the Marine Debris Monitoring and Assessment Project, which helps us collect data on larger debris items that are in the environment. We also have a research grant program. Some of the grantees are here today. And there's a grant opportunity open now that's focused on risk assessment and exposure studies, fate and transport of debris, as well as assessing the benefits to habitats from debris removal. And then lastly, removal. So recognizing that a significant amount of this stuff is escaping into the environment, this is kind of a last-ditch effort to remove it. So our removal grant program focuses on medium to large-scale accumulations of debris that are having impacts on NOAA Trust resources. So one local example that some of you might be familiar with is down at the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve. So the Tijuana River, the majority of the watershed is located in Mexico, and a significant amount of plastics and trash and tires and other debris washes down, crosses the US border, and is, well, hopefully a significant amount of it is being captured in these sediment basins that they've constructed. So the basins are capturing a lot of sediment and trash. Here you can see trash accumulated behind this boom and catching it before it has a chance to impact the coastal salt marsh areas. So that's really our program in a nutshell. But the true credit goes to the various partners and grantees that we have the pleasure of working with that are developing and implementing really innovative projects to address all aspects of this really multifaceted issue. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, she was also lucky because I forgot to start the 5-minute timer, but she stayed on time. Now I don't even know how to start this. So Kelly might also be lucky. Let's see. Well, Kelly is next up by the lottery system, and Kelly is a policy analyst for Californians Against Waste. Oh, and Stuart's not going to let you get by without a timer. So here we go. All right, Kelly McBee.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly McBee. I work with Californians Against Waste. We are a Sacramento-based advocacy environmental nonprofit, and I'm excited to talk to you tonight. So Californians Against Waste was founded 41 years ago. We address issues through legislative engagement and regulatory engagement on the full spectrum of waste. We've engaged on mattresses, tires, carpets, other types of waste-specific issues. To promote recycling and composting, but in the last few years, we have had an increasing focus on plastics. We've always engaged in plastics to some degree, but really becoming more aware of the plastic pollution problem, it's taken over an even larger part of our portfolio, and I am fortunate to get to focus on plastic pollution prevention in my work at CAW. So tonight I want to talk about some of the strongest laws that California already has regulating plastic use and disposal, and then go into some of the new laws that we have this year and talk about where we're going in the future. So our biggest successes is, I think, our bottle bill program. You guys are all familiar with their 5 or 10 cent deposit that you have on bottles. That was Californians Against Waste's first program. We were actually founded as a nonprofit to get that program here in California. So we continue to monitor it, and it's recycled 362 billion beverage containers since its inception, and it is the most successful beverage container recycling program in the country. and this is just a small segment, by the way, of our successful laws to date, our law prohibiting the use of the term biodegradable on plastic products. This is important to prevent greenwashing of products that are plastic. We don't want people thinking that plastic breaks down and that it actually breaks up into elements naturally found in the environment. They don't want to be throwing it away. Our prohibition on the use of plastic microbeads. Californians Against Waste sponsored this piece of legislation in 2015. I know that says 2011. It was 2015. And this law prohibits the use of small pieces of plastic in personal care products. That is now federal law as well. Just a few months after California passed our law, federal government did the same. And then, of course, our California plastic bag ban. I like to say that California banned bags twice, once through the legislature, and then again when California voters confirmed that they wanted bags to remain banned in the November 2016 election year. So 2018, just in this last month, the governor has signed 4 bills that seek to address plastic pollution even further. Californians Against Waste sponsored or supported all of these bills with a number of other nonprofits. You'll hear from Trent tonight. Surfrider had a big part in these as well. The first is SB 1335. So this law will limit the use of non-recyclable and non-compostable food packaging at state agencies. So at the food service facilities, specifically at state agencies. So we're taking a first bite, looking at just state agencies first, and then hopefully that is a policy that we can take to all restaurants in California. Testing of drinking water for microplastics. This is a very exciting bill that in the next 2 years will require the State Water Board to develop a method for testing drinking water for microplastics. And then over the next 4 years, public water agencies will be testing their water to see if they have microplastics there, and then publicly disclosing those results. The SB 1263, also by Senator Portantino, this bill will require the OPC to draft a strategy over the next few years for tackling microplastics, and that strategy will be presented to the legislature so they can take action further. And then our straws upon request legislation by Assembly Majority Leader Ian Calderon, starting January 1st of 2019, all sit-down restaurants in California will need to request or will need to ask a customer if they want a straw before giving them away. So this is, I want to point out, these are great, this is progress in California, but this was less than a third, I think, of the full portfolio that Californians Against Waste worked on this year of plastic pollution bills. So there's a lot more to go. And in closing, this is my last slide, I want to talk about where we think we're going. So when Governor Jerry Brown signed AB 1884, that was the straws upon request piece of legislation, he left a very strong signing message. This is just a blip of it where he says plastics in all forms, straws, bottles, packaging, bags, etc., are all choking our planet.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, Governor Brown. And we must find ways to reduce and eventually eliminate single-use plastic products. So he has left us with this great legacy for moving forward, and Californians Against Waste really wants to see California tackle plastic pollution in a more comprehensive way. Some of the things we're talking about with our allies now are potentially looking at a cap on the production, sale, use of plastic, or a plastic tax. How do we really look at this as a broader issue? And so those are the conversations we'll be having in the years to come. That's my contact information. We're always looking for ideas and for collaboration. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. All right, now we're going to talk to Alex Grabowski. I didn't even ask how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. Okay, perfect. From the World Wildlife Fund about their campaign, which is called No Plastic in Nature. And you also have to use this timer. There we go.
I'll do my best.
All right.
Okay, thanks everyone for having me today. I'm Alex Grabowski from the World Wildlife Fund, and I lead our work on packaging and materials, and that includes plastics. So I wanted to start by talking about why WWF cares about this issue and why we're committing resources to it. So our mission at WWF is to protect the world's wildlife and conserve our natural resources. And we work in these 6 focus areas that you can see up here. And you'll notice that one of them is actually, the plastic is not up there, right? So why are we working on this on this issue. And it's because we see plastic pollution can threaten our progress on these goals that we have. And we also see that we need to take a whole planet perspective as we work on this issue, because we want to stop the flow of plastic into nature. We want it to stop impacting our wildlife. We want it to stop impacting our oceans and polluting our rivers. But we also want to do it in a way that it doesn't cause another environmental crisis. We don't want the solution we put in place to cause more deforestation. We don't want it to cause climate trade-offs, and we don't want it to cause more food waste, because this is not the only environmental crisis that we face, and we cannot afford to trade this one for another one. So this is our vision: stop the flow of plastic into nature by 2030. It's a simple vision, but a bold one. And the reason we've written it like this is because we wanted to leave room for innovation. We noticed that we really needed to set a vision that said what we really wanted to happen, but not be prescriptive about how we get there. Because there's only one thing that's certain in this space, and that's that we're going to need a whole lot of innovation to get to the future that we imagine. And we also can't afford to set our path too narrow in the beginning, where we might end up dismissing or looking over a solution that we haven't even imagined yet. And this would be easy to do because this problem is complex and has a lot of pathways. I'm not going to go over this in detail, but what I did want to point out is that we are focusing, everything I'm going to talk about today is focusing on prevention, stopping the flow of plastic. It's not talking about cleanup, and it's mostly talking about land-based sources, right, not ghost gear, which is also a big problem. And the reason we decided to focus on that was because we thought it was the most impactful place for us to intervene based on our strengths. So what is our plan? We have a three-pronged approach. Resource Plastic, which is our platform for engaging business on this issue. That's what my team focuses on. Plastic Pollution-Free Cities program, which is our place-based work to work in the landscapes that matter most for this issue, and a campaign to amplify them both. And I wanted to talk first about our Plastic Pollution-Free Cities program. Let me look at the timer. Okay, I'm good. This is focused on helping communities overcome plastic pollution. And by doing this, by making a plan that doesn't just make it easy for communities to implement this themselves, but also makes it cost effective for them. It's really important. And there's already pilot programs running for this program in some of the places where it really matters the most: Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Hong Kong. And importantly, we think that it's really important to recognize different places need different solutions. There's not going to be one solution that's going to work everywhere, because ultimately we need to meet the needs of these communities so that they can own these programs and take them forward. That's the only way they're going to be successful, because that's the only way we can keep them going long term and be sustained. So switching gears a bit to talk about our business engagement program. This is focused on transforming our material system such that we stop plastic from going into nature, but we also recover more, reuse more, and are able to extend the life of our natural resources and ultimately demand less from our planet. And business leaders are already setting bold goals on this topic, but this is well outside their core capabilities, and there's no comprehensive and coordinated program right now that matches the scale of the problem for them to join. So that's why they have really important influence points, right, as illustrated on the slide. They have control over a lot of things and then influence over the rest of the chain that we need to take action. But they really lack the ability to convene at the scale we need to make the kind of change that is systemic. So that's why we're creating an action platform to create not just the resources that we need to move the market, but also the collective influence power. And I'm running out of time. I just wanted to end with the kind of core concept behind our whole strategy, which is that we want to accelerate and amplify. We really don't want to duplicate what anyone else is doing, because there is definitely enough work here for everyone. But we do want to help create that critical mass, right? There's a ton of great work going on, and I think that our goal is to try and tie it all together and really make this into something where we ultimately solve this problem, right? We don't want to just do good work. We want to ultimately get to the place we're going. So thank you.
Yeah, almost, so close. Thank Thank you. All right. Where's my mouse? Is it back? No. Oh, there it is. All right. This is an adventure, guys. I can't see it back here. Okay. Okay. There's my cluttered screen. Next is not this one. We're done with that. Done with that. And next up is Winnie. All right. Any minute. Okay, great. Winnie Lau. Oh, sorry, I didn't even introduce you. Winnie Lau is a senior officer with the Pew Charitable Trust.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm really excited to be here to share with you about one of our newest initiatives at the Pew Charitable Trust, and that's our Preventing Ocean Plastics project, a 2-year endeavor that was approved by our board earlier this summer, actually, so even more fresh off the press. So for those of you who are less familiar with Pew, we are a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., with a mission to utilize a pragmatic, fact-based, and disciplined approach to addressing causes that contribute to the public good. And our work ranges from health to finance to the environment and to governance. And we work at multiple scales, at the local scale, the state scale, national and global scale. So about a year and a half ago, my group, the Environment International program group at Pew, started looking at the plastics problem to see where we could contribute to providing solutions. And what we realized very quickly was that there were many groups already working on this issue. We didn't want to duplicate those efforts, just like WWF, as Alex said, and as you've already heard, and as you'll hear from all the other speakers about all those other efforts, what we wanted to figure out was where we could add value. And one of the things that Pew's strength lies in is providing scientific data and policy analysis. And during the design phase of our work, we consulted many NGOs and many scientists. And what we decided where we can most add value is to develop a global roadmap and to disseminate it so that we can all use it to identify the economically and politically feasible solutions. And our approach to this work has 3 strands. First is that we will conduct a global economic analysis to evaluate the costs and mitigation potential of various solutions for reducing plastic flow into the ocean. Second, we will be conducting a regulatory and voluntary market landscape analysis so that we can identify the social and politically feasible solutions. And third, we will bring together a group of experts who will synthesize the findings from the economic and policy analysis and develop and create a roadmap to provide solutions for reducing the flow of plastic into the ocean. So for the past 3 months, we've been working very closely with our partner, Systemic, which is a group based in London, to develop the framework and model for our economic analysis. And we're taking a cost curve and wedges approach, very similar to that taken by the folks working on the climate change issue to identify mitigation strategies. And what you can see from here is that we hope that from our analysis, we can identify those interventions that are most cost-effective and most efficient for solving our plastic problem, and such as reducing production and use, improving recycling, and improving the waste management. In essence, we're going to look at the whole system, look at all the solutions across the entire system. And to complement this work, we will also be conducting a global policy analysis, which will identify the existing policies, the policy gaps, the lessons learned, and the best practices. So we believe that for the scale of the problem, that collaboration and cooperation are key. And because of that, we are working with over a dozen experts to advise us on the economic analysis. And we are also developing partnerships with different organizations to deepen our analysis, broaden our reach, and we are also looking to conduct many stakeholder meetings with our NGO colleagues, with government, with industry, so that we can share our work and our approach and get feedback. And our goal is to make our work open source at the end of this, so that our model, our analyses will be freely open to everyone to use, so that they can use it to identify their own solutions, their own set of solutions. We hope that this tool will be used by people and will be able to help advance the solutions. This work is in the very early stages. We're really excited about it, and we look forward to being able to share with you our progress in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. All right. Let's see. Up next, we have. Maybe. Okay. We have Chelsea, who is a supervising recycling specialist from our very own city of San Diego. Here we go.
Good evening. Thank you, Jenny. Again, I am Chelsea Clacius. I am can you all see me? Okay, great. I'm a supervising recycling specialist with the City of San Diego's Environmental Services Department. I specifically work in the Waste Reduction Division, and our section, the recycling section, oversees the city's waste reduction and solid waste diversion and efforts. This includes public education and outreach that focus on different elements within the solid waste industry. So the way in which we inform the programs that we're going to be enforcing is data-driven. For example, waste characterization studies that we do. This one was done in 2012 at our local Miramar landfill. Obviously, you can see the types of products that are still going into our landfill, and that helps to inform and drive the kinds of programs that we develop. Organics is huge, construction and demolition is huge, but plastic is still a big part. And unfortunately, I think one of the reasons that plastic number is small is because it sometimes doesn't end up at the landfill, right? Which is unfortunate. So that is one of the ways in which we do that. Also, like Kelly was mentioning, there's a lot of state legislation that comes down, right? And so when we have state legislation, a lot of times there's not a prescriptive approach as to how you do it. The state just says, hey, municipality, this is the law we've passed, figure out how to get it done. And so we are I work for the city of San Diego, so we're working on the local scale, and we are kind of boots on the ground to try to figure out different ways to be able to create behavior change. And, municipalities, jurisdictions have taken different approaches over the last few decades, especially since the bottle bill was passed, which was obviously banner legislation in the state of California in the recycling industry. But, we're trying to, which is what I really love about what this gathering space is. The more we can rely on different expertise, the better types of programs and enforcement can be developed. So, consumer-based social marketing, that is something newer that our industry is now trying to use to create actual behavior change in the public sphere. And that's through behavioral science, right? Not just people in the trash industry. So those are some of the things that we do. Because we're able to get this kind of data, it also allows us to create different sorts of plans. So because of the information and data we gathered and found, that actually helped us go to the city council in 2015 to pass our zero waste plan. And this is the hierarchy that we kind of look at. I think most of you know what zero waste is, but for those of you that don't, it's basically looking at our discards as resources. And there's a hierarchy to it. So everyone knows reduce, reuse, recycle. We're trying to flip that paradigm on its head, focus on preventing waste, and refusing waste. It's also then focused on reusing what we do have. And I would also, say in addition to reuse, there's also a repair element, right? So don't be so discard focused, figuring out, there's lots of tinkerers and repairing items is kind of a burgeoning green industry as well. Obviously, recycling is something that everyone looks to as a first step. We don't look at it as a first step. Then there's recover, other value, that would be things like, composting, etc. And then obviously the very last thing is disposal. And so the city's zero waste plan is to divert 75% of our waste by 2020, 90% by 2035, and reach zero waste by 2040. In addition to our zero waste plan, it's also an element captured in the city's climate action plan that was also passed in 2015. Even though they are independent plans, zero waste is one of the main pillars. And like Alex was saying from WWF, we do not want to focus on solutions that create another crisis. And so when we talk about zero waste, we want to talk about ways in which we can come up with solutions that is not also affecting our ability to reach our climate action goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Though you kind of cheated the timer. Great job. All right. One last one on this computer, and then our final panelist has arrived from teaching on Upper Campus. So we've got the whole gamut here. Okay. Let me see. I have to get this into full screen. Sorry. Hold on one second. This is embarrassing, guys. Sorry. I was doing it before.
I think go to view.
There we go. Full screen mode. All right. This is Trent Hodges with Surfrider.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thanks Scripps for having us. This is just an awesome panel, a great group of experts to be with. Again, my name is Trent Hodges, Plastic Pollution Manager for the Surfrider Foundation. The Surfrider Foundation's mission is the protection and enjoyment of the world's ocean waves and beaches. So we're really an organization that focuses on the protection of our special places, but also not forgetting to enjoy those places. As I'm sure all of us here are here because of a love for the ocean or something about the environment or the ocean that's brought us here to discuss this really pernicious problem. Our solution to plastic pollution really is source reduction, right? So stopping plastic pollution at the source and really disrupting the plastic industry to make sure that all those single-use plastic disposable items that we're constantly putting out into our environment, we're really stopping it at the source. That's kind of our overall guiding mission. And so I really look at our work in kind of 3 different buckets. So we have our campaigns, which we run all over the country. So we are a grassroots network of 160 chapters and clubs in a bunch of schools. So mainly volunteer-led, and so this is kind of the bread and butter of Surfrider. We have a bunch of really dedicated volunteers who are passionate about a place, and then they work really hard to protect it, often on their own time, which is amazing. We have our education and outreach, so really, oh, this didn't start, so this is not fair. Extra 2 minutes, no, I'll stop. We have our education and outreach program, so that's really getting the message out about plastic pollution, engaging folks, trying to get the message beyond our social circles. And then engaging with business as well, because we also believe that business has a huge part to play in solving this crisis. So on the campaigns front, this is, like I mentioned, kind of what we are known for. So all across the country, we are constantly starting new campaigns to fight plastic pollution. So whether that's a local plastic bag ban, a ban on plastic straws, polystyrene foam, finding ways to integrate more recycled content into products. All of our chapters in some way are engaging in this type of work. And so this kind of makes us who we are. And we really start at the local level, the grassroots level, and working with great organizations like California Against Waste, we kind of transfer that up to the state level, and then hopefully at the federal level as well. So since 2006, since we've been working on plastic pollution, we have over 170 plastic pollution victories across the country, which really speaks to just the power of when communities come together to fight plastic pollution. So a little snapshot of just our activists and our volunteers on the ground. This is Eva Holman with the San Francisco chapter, where they recently passed a plastic straw ban. That's her on the steps of City Hall. This is just a picture of the bag monster, which you find at many of our local events and at City Hall meetings. And this picture of beach cleanups. We do a lot of beach cleanups around the country, and really, we look at that as a way to engage the volunteers to get to that next step of source prevention and starting those campaigns. We're here in San Diego, and San Diego has an awesome campaign going on right now called Fight the Foam. So, yeah, exactly. So polystyrene foam, as many of you probably know, is a really harmful and really ubiquitous piece of plastic in our environment. And so the San Diego chapter has started a campaign to ban polystyrene foam, as well as make sure that plastic straws and plastic utensils are available only upon request. So hopefully on October 15th, if the city passes it, there'll also be a polystyrene foam ban here in the city of San Diego, which would be huge. So, and this is kind of a bit of our education and outreach work. So we develop different digital marketing assets to bring the message of plastic pollution to a greater audience. So these are just some examples of the type of work that we do. And of course, across the country, all of our chapters are carrying out events much like tonight to raise awareness about plastic pollution and help drive consumer behavior change as well. And then I also mentioned that we are engaged with businesses as well. So we look at our campaign work as kind of the boots on the ground kind of stick approach, but we also want to do the carrot approach of working with businesses to help them reduce their plastic use. And so we started a program called Ocean Friendly Restaurants, which actually was kind of born here in San Diego and now has transferred to our entire network. And really this program has kind of taken off this last year because businesses, we have found, are really excited and interested and to learn how they can reduce their impact. So by simply engaging our network, developing resources and assets to help businesses reduce their plastic use, we look at that as a really successful approach as well. So these businesses essentially follow a criteria that's mainly based on reducing single-use plastics as well as some other sustainable measures. And so just this year, 350 restaurants across the country have signed on to the program. And I think here in San Diego, there's like over 100 ocean-friendly restaurants you can find. If you visit sandiego.surfrider.org, you can find where all those restaurants are. And those restaurants as well are educating their consumers about what they're doing to reduce plastic use. So it's kind of a win-win. So that's a broad overview of all of our plastic work. So I'm really looking forward to the panel and discussing some more solutions with this great group, and thanks for having us.
Awesome, thank you. All right, come on up. We're gonna quickly switch, we're gonna quickly switch computers. Here we go, we need this. Only the most professional here at Scripps Oceanography. We're ready. Here we go. Right. What is this? That's for the clicker. Oh, you don't even need to use it. You can use that, though.
I can't use it.
Oh,
It's
perfect.
not USB-C.
All right. Then
Okay.
you're good.
Thanks.
Is that up?
So how does the time work?
Is this your first slide? Are you good?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Let's start this over. Since Trent is the only one who didn't go over time because it didn't start, we're now confused because it only is giving us 37 seconds. So we got to start it again.
Well, it didn't really count because I didn't
Yeah. Here we go. All right.
Oh boy, this is stressful.
Here we go.
All
5
right.
minutes. You're on.
All right, so I'm an artist and architect, and I've been working on plastic pollution since about 2013, when a German foundation of all the countries, German, decided to fund my project, which was born in Los Angeles. So I took this seat at the bottom of the ocean when I first saw images of like this, a plastic chair 6 kilometers down in the Baltic area. And I was a student at UCLA at that time, studying visual arts. And I decided to do more research on this subject because I just didn't like the idea that of all the places in the world, there's plastic pollution at the bottom of the oceans. My research took me to this image. This is actually an image from 1953 from a lifestyle magazine because we need magazines to tell us how to live our lives in style. And it's amazing. This article states that by using disposable consumer items, primarily plastics, you can cut up to 40 hours on household chores, which you can then use for better shopping experiences. And I found this image also very exhilarating and telling because I don't know if you can see, but there are 3 people in this image. It's what is a molecular family? No, atomic family. It's, you know, the simplest family unit. There's a child, and it's a daughter, and her face is obscured by a flying piece of plastics. What really encouraged me to take this really challenging and grim subject was Chris Jordan's work. When I saw this image, it really gave me goosebumps. Again, the ultimate fusion of nature and culture happening at the digestive tract of a lazen albatross. So I ask myself, if ocean is full of plastics, and if oceans are where life started 3.8 billion years ago, what if life started now in today's oceans, in our contemporary primordial soup of plastics? I met with scientists, amazing scientists. These are, sorry, that's not the image. These are images from Linda Emerald Zettler's lab in Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. She's a microbiologist which studies extreme life forms called extremophils, and her research took her to bacteria that emerged off of plastics that's in the ocean. So I was like, well, all I have to do is extrapolate from this and imagine different life forms that could possibly emerge in a plastic ocean. These are insects, aquatic insects that emerged again in the contemporary plastic ocean. I found papers which claim that due to microplastics, the overpositioning of aquatic insects has increased. It's more possible for aquatic insects to use the open ocean as their habitat, which wasn't the case before. So I designed or thought about different varieties of insects. I thought about a Pacific balloon turtle. Again, research took me to a paper which showed that if given the option between clear plastics and colored plastics, a hungry turtle, marine turtle, will almost always opt for the colored one. And their most preferred meal is balloons. We do have this problem called the balloon pollution. So I thought about this creature which has an elastic back, inflatable, a survival advantage in the face of raising sea levels, and a fitness indicator. Then I read papers about the contents of the stomach of marine birds, and I might be wrong with the numbers, or it might have increased, but about 27% was bottle caps. And I thought to myself, well, in nature, as we know it, there's this correlation between an animal's diet and their coloration. Like flamingos get their beautiful colors from the krill they eat. What if these birds, after eons of evolution, start displaying corporate colors, such as Pantone red, which is the Coca-Cola red, Pantone 485C? Oh no. Okay. I'll steal 30 more seconds. And then I thought about other birds like that displays Dasani blue, avian pink, and so on. I'll just show these in very fast and not go into detail. Further research took me into the science of metabolizing plastics, which is very difficult, so I designed a sense organ that can detect plastics. I designed Stomaximus, which is a maximized stomach that can churn up to 17 different types of plastics, from HDP, LDP, PP, acrylics, vinyl, and so on. All of these little vesicles contain bacteria that Linda Emerald-Zettler found that can target a specific type of plastics. And this is how I show the artwork. This is the installation shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you to our very impressive panel. Can we give them a round of applause?